11 Alive News at 6 p.m. starts now.
First on 11 Alive this Sunday, we are learning more about last night's explosion of violence in downtown Atlanta. Last night, protesters walked up from underground Atlanta, and in their wake, buildings were damaged heavily, and at times one Atlanta police squad car was destroyed. Just hours ago, 11 Alive able to obtain the names and mugshots of those arrested last night. Atlanta police telling us that all 6 are facing 8 charges, including domestic terrorism. Only one of these 6 is said to be from Georgia, Graham Evat, 20 years old, out of Decatur. Of the remaining 5, they are listed as being from Tennessee, Washington, Nevada, Maine, and Michigan. This morning on the news program Face the Nation, Mayor Dickens addressed last night's activity in downtown Atlanta.
And it was peaceful, but there were some individuals within that crowd that meant violence. They had explosives, they burned down a police car, they broke windows at businesses, and so our police department, along with our state and federal partners, took swift action within 2 blocks and brought that situation under control, and the violence stopped, and those 6 individuals were arrested.
After a night of chaos, now comes the cleanup, all while city officials ponder their next steps. With more, here's 11 Alive's Karis Belger.
Shattered glass was still lying on the sidewalk outside of this Truist Bank branch on Peachtree Street in downtown Atlanta Sunday.
It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. There could have been more people involved.
What started as a peaceful protest at Underground Atlanta Saturday quickly escalated. Joshua Schaefer says he lives about a mile down the road from where everything happened.
We heard a helicopter flying around and maybe one cop car come by, but that was it.
During the night, police say 3 businesses suffered damage. The touchscreens of the ATM machines at a nearby Wells Fargo branch were completely destroyed, as were the windows of 191 Peachtree Tower, which houses the Atlanta Police Foundation office.
And some of them were found with explosives on them. You heard that correctly, explosives, and that has led to a police officer's car being set on fire.
In his update with Atlanta Police Chief Schierbaum, Mayor Andre Dickens says 6 arrests have been made so far, and those involved do not appear to be local.
Many of them don't even live in Atlanta or in the state of Georgia, and they don't represent the voices of Atlanta.
Police Chief Schierbaum explained multiple agencies have been called in to aid in the investigation, including the FBI and the Georgia State Attorney General's office.
We have arrested actors that have already been involved in other criminal activity and are involved in a manner to deter the building of the Public Safety Training Center.
And while he understands why the demonstrators are so passionate, Schaefer says there's another way to make a point.
Definitely a better way to demonstrate. I'm definitely for peace.
Karis Belger, 11 Alive News.
We have reached out to Wells Fargo and Truist for comment to the damage at their downtown locations, but we have not yet received any statements from the banks. Moving on to some breaking news now. We now know that a person killed in an overnight shooting in southwest Atlanta was a 13-year-old boy. This happens while Atlanta city leaders have been trying to curb crime involving young people for months, including a renewed push for a curfew for teens 17 and under. We want to go live to the scene of the shooting just off the west side of the perimeter. That is where we find 11 Alive's Dawn White with the very latest on the killing. Dawn.
Well, Jeff, Atlanta police say that 13-year-old's life ended right here on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. This is close to a skating rink as well as several other businesses. The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, they have identified this 13-year-old as Deshaun DuBose, and they say that he was shot twice. It happened just before 11:30 last night. EMS took Deshaun to Grady Hospital where he was pronounced dead. I reached out to Atlanta police within the hour to see if they had any suspects or knew where the shooting started, and a spokesperson told me there was nothing further to release at this time as the investigation remains active and ongoing. I spoke to a man who has lived in this area all of his life. He says he does hear gunshots a few times a week, but it's not typical for someone this young to die.
In this day, age of lifetime, I mean, it's a crazy world. I mean, it's a lot going on right now. So, but a 13-year-old, wasn't expecting that to happen. So, yeah, I was shocked.
We are working right now to find out more about Deshaun, and we will bring you the latest information tonight at 11. Jeff?
All right, Don White reporting for us. For the very latest updates, you can download the 11 Alive app. It's as easy as scanning that QR code that you see on your screen. On to the weather. It has been a typical day in North Georgia for late January, and that's not necessarily a good thing. We're talking about some precipitation. A lot of it rolled through overnight, some very heavy thunderstorms, at least for those of us in Midtown.
Yes, I saw quite a few comments on our 11 Alive Storm Trackers Facebook page of people that were woken up by the thunder overnight. Some of those strikes were loud, and now the thunder, any lightning has really subsided, but a lot of us are still dealing with rainfall, and we have been throughout much of the day. This is our view right now from looking up 400 towards the King and the Queen from Northside Hospital. As you can tell, it's kind of dreary. It's been one of those gray days where really the best bet is just to stay indoors. We're still seeing widespread rain across North Georgia, but the bulk of the heavy rain and certainly any risk for thunderstorms and severe weather is down towards our south. This line of activity is associated with the cold front that is currently working its way across the state. With this cold front, we've obviously been seeing a good deal of rainfall with widespread at this point, still mainly light rain. A few pockets of some moderate to heavy rain still possible into the remainder of the evening and even overnight tonight, but rain will start to subside, especially once the sun sets. We're also feeling the chill. It's chilly out there. We're at 45 in Atlanta right now. Most of us are in the 40s, which is where we sat all day today. This cold front is actually going to bring in some colder air and some drier air into the overnight hours. So while we are seeing areas of fog right now, I think that fog will actually start to diminish as we get closer towards tomorrow morning. The rainfall will start to subside by about 9 or 10 o'clock this evening. We'll see a few isolated showers even into the morning hours tomorrow, and we'll start off our week in the 30s. Temperatures may be cold, but we've got a little bit of a warming pattern. We're not escaping the rainfall, though, when we'll see the return of scattered showers and storms coming up.
Nicole, thank you. Other stories we're tracking for you on this Sunday evening. A party turned deadly late last night in Brookhaven. In all, 4 men were shot, 1 being killed. This was along Buford Highway, just north of North Druid Hills Road. Brookhaven PD now saying the person who was killed was found inside the apartment. However, the gathering did include a tent set up outside.
At the party took place in the overnight hours, and the individuals that were involved may have continued to party and consume alcohol inside the apartment into the early morning hours this morning.
Police haven't said who shot who or if there were multiple shooters. They did say, however, that they are not looking for any suspects currently. The names of those shot have not been released. A Buckhead apartment complex, the scene of another homicide yesterday. This was around 6 p.m. at the Emily Lennox, just a few blocks east of Lennox Square. We were told tonight by APD that they found the body of a man already dead with multiple gunshot wounds. Investigators saying they have detained a suspect and that he and the victim knew each other. No identities have been released. This morning, Metro Atlanta and the nation woke to shocking news from California. Mass shooting during a lunar New Year's celebration. Here's what we know. The shooting in a Monterey Park ballroom left 5 women and 5 men dead. It wounded another 10 people. Authorities say the male suspect left that scene and then walked into another ballroom with a gun but didn't fire. It is believed the 2 events are connected. At this hour, there has been a frantic search underway to capture that suspect.
As we're looking for this suspect, we will not forget the victims and survivors. And it's important because you can just imagine the trauma that they've experienced, and it's our responsibility to wrap our arms around them.
This has brought reaction from Dr. Bernice King, daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., issuing a tweet calling this devastating for families, the Asian American community, children, and our nation, end quote. There was also reaction from State Representative Dr. Michelle Oh, who noted that this is the 33rd mass shooting so far this year. Happening today, 50 years since the U.S. Supreme Court decision, Roe v. Wade, which established federal protections for abortions. Last year, the High Court issued a reversal which put abortion restrictions and near total bans back in place in more than a dozen states. Today, on the steps of the state capitol, backers of legalized abortion were calling for the repeal of Georgia's 6-week abortion ban and the expansion of abortion rights at both the federal and the state level. It caps a weekend of debate on both sides of the issue. Yesterday, the advocacy group Amplify Georgia Collaborative held a webinar explaining why abortions should be made legal nationwide.
Just like our opponents are trying everything under the sun to erode our reproductive freedoms, we must look at every option to protect it. That is how we think beyond Roe and keep abortion legal, available, and accessible for all.
We also talked with Suzanne Guy, the founder of the group Life Initiatives and Values. She says her personal story of a troubled pregnancy made her become an advocate for keeping Roe overturned.
My heart is so much for the women. Yes, I want to see full protection for those innocent human beings in the womb that deserve full protection. But I have a deep passion for women, and I want them to know that they are loved, that there is hope, and that abortion will never solve the very real problems that women face.
All right, we have a lot more news coming your way in the course of the next 20 minutes. The human brain, powerful as we know, but some say we're only using 10% of it, some of us even less than that. We'll verify how accurate that number is when we come back. The idea that humans use only 10% of their brains, one of the most widely spread brain myths of all for those of you scoring at home. But as Verify's Ariana Datil explains why that number is not close to being accurate.
How much of our brains do we actually use? You've probably heard that it's only about 10%, which means we're missing out on a lot of untapped brain power. Verify viewer Lucia asked our team to find out if this theory is true or false. So Lucia, let's verify. We went to these sources for an answer, and they all agree. This claim is false.
We don't use only 10%, we use 100% of our brain.
Neuroscientist Dr. Eric Chudler says with the help of brain imaging techniques like functional MRIs and PET scans, scientists have proven that we use 100% of our brains every day.
And when you look at a brain image, all parts of the brain are doing something. There's no part of the brain that's just sitting there inactive.
So where did this myth come from? Chudler says one of the possible origination theories dates back to 1907.
Psychologist William James wrote in a very influential book that we only use part of our possible mental or physical resources, but he never put a percentage on it.
According to the Association for Psychological Science, James did not claim that humans only use a small portion of their brains. Instead, they say James was observing how decorum, social norms, and routines fail to engage all of people's resources. So we can verify, no, humans don't only use 10% of our brains. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Datil.
A cold front is currently moving across the southeastern United States. It's prompting severe thunderstorms down towards the south of us into South Georgia for North Florida. We've also had a couple tornado warnings associated with this, but again, way down towards the south of us. What we're seeing across the Atlanta metro area is just rainfall. Even the thunder and lightning that we had overnight last night and into early this morning, for the most part, has subsided. We still have a few pockets of some moderate to heavy rain right now, right around the Athens area, also just down south of the Atlanta metro. But most of us are just feeling light rain, and some of us have started to dry out. It is going to be a slow drying process into the overnight hours, but I think by 9 or 10 o'clock, this is 10 o'clock this evening on our future track, you can tell that there's not nearly as much rain. We're still seeing some isolated shower activity, but it is not quite as widespread, and it is, again, predominantly light. So we'll start to watch as conditions improve from here and into the overnight hours. Now, as temperatures drop and we still have a couple lingering showers, there may be a few spots up into far north Georgia that managed to pick up on a few flurries, a little bit of wintry mix into early tomorrow morning. This is mainly for elevation. In Atlanta, for most of the surrounding areas, temperatures are going to be above freezing. Still cold. We're talking mid to upper 30s, but it's really into far north Georgia that temperatures will be cold enough to really see any transition into that wintry mix. And that's, again, if a few showers manage to stick around. This is not going to be impactful, though. We'll be dry by the time you're waking up tomorrow morning, and we'll spend the day clearing out cloud cover. So it will be a mostly cloudy morning and then turn into a mostly sunny afternoon. So your Monday planner, not half bad. Temperatures, however, are going to stay chilly. That cold air that's filtering in behind behind our cold front, it's going to be pretty hard to shake even with the return of sunshine. So highs only managed to get up into the upper 40s and the low 50s for tomorrow afternoon. This does put us maybe 5 degrees below average, but not half bad. It's going to be cold. You will definitely need a heavier jacket, a heavier coat into the afternoon. Especially once the sun sets, those temperatures will be getting cold once again. We'll be right around 49 degrees in Atlanta with some 50s south of the city. We will watch as temperatures warm up into the first half of the week. Although afternoon highs do start to get a little bit warmer, your morning lows will remain pretty cold. In fact, Tuesday morning, your overnight lows drop down to below freezing across much of the Atlanta area before we get a little bump up in the humidity and therefore the temperatures by Wednesday. Our next storm system also arrives on Wednesday, so our break from the rainfall is going to be very brief. We'll stay dry Monday, dry Tuesday, and then this area of low pressure starts to push in to North Georgia by Tuesday night and a Wednesday morning, again bringing widespread rainfall. This cold front is also going to bring a risk for severe storms down towards our south and our west, but for us, we're really not going to see that capability for severe weather. I think temperatures are just going to be so cool that the atmosphere will be too stable to really allow for any of those storms to turn strong or severe. We'll still be watching that carefully. The rain moves out by Wednesday night. We're left with chilly temperatures, but a little more sunshine into the end of the week and the start of the weekend.
Division weekend continuing, and there was a question, fleeting as it was, maybe Atlanta becomes a host of a neutral side AFC championship. Well, that ain't gonna happen. We'll have highlights when we come back.
We'll say goodbye.
You've worked so hard since April to get to this point, and you're 2 wins away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it all comes down to. All that work that you're putting in, all that time that you're putting in, it comes down to this. And then from the fans' perspective, best 8 teams in the league, 4 games. Yeah. This weekend's awesome.
Sure is. Former Falcon Matt Ryan knows what this weekend is all about. This year, the city of Atlanta has nothing to directly root for in the NFL playoffs, but could see a potential playoff game if both the Bills and Chiefs won this weekend. KC did their job on Saturday. How did the Bills fare on Sunday? So we head out to Orchard Park and see what happened. It was a snowy day. God, it's pretty. Bills, Bengals on a scoreless game in the first quarter. First drive for the Bengals. Joe Burrow evades pressure, finds Jamar Chase. God, such a special connection out of LSU. 7-0 Cincy. They really dominated most of the first half, of 14-0 before Josh Allen finally gets his team back into it. Rushes in for the touchdown here, but he'd finished with no touchdown passes and an interception, and the Bills are not built to win when that happens. The Bengals more than okay with it as they run away with it. 27-10 the final. The Bengals head back to the AFC title game, a game that will officially not be played here in town.
See them and just how excited they are to see the guys and to be back in this atmosphere and all, and you know, speaks volumes to Braves country. I keep saying it's a real deal. Braves country's real.
As football season marches on and towards its conclusion, baseball season is on the horizon. No better example of that is Braves Fest this weekend at Truist Park. A cool chance for the fans to interact with players at the ballpark and even try out to be the public address announcer. Now, it's also great for us in the media because we get to hear from plenty of guys for the first time ahead of a new season. This year's team looks a little bit different with the departure of Dansby Swanson, but the main core is still very much intact. Something that excites manager Brian Snitker, knowing they have a mix of old and new players that have them ready to make another title run.
We've done a good job, I think, now that you're going to see the core group of these guys here every year for this thing, which is, you know, I think what Alex does, man, and keeping those young quality guys around. And, you know, so, and I know all, just talking to all the new guys, they've already had a great time. You know, they've been very impressed, I think, number one, with the facility, the enthusiasm here. Everything that's gone on, I think they're really glad to be here.
Should be a really exciting year. Braves pitchers and catchers are scheduled to report for spring training on February 16th. That's it for sports. Thanks for watching. More news after this commercial break.
It has been a soggy Sunday, but your Monday looks a lot better. We'll hang on to cloud cover as well as isolated showers into the overnight hours. The clouds will clear out, return to sun by tomorrow afternoon, but the cold air is going to take some time to shake. Highs tomorrow only get up into the 40s. We climb to the 50s by Tuesday, and then highs get up to the 60s on Wednesday. But the trade-off for the warmth is going to be the return of some rainfall. Wednesday looks to be another very rainy, potentially stormy day.
Sorry to disagree with you. Mondays never look better. I don't care what the weather is.
looks great.
All right, that's it for us for now. Thanks for watching. See you tonight at 11 o'clock.